Oh, there it goes. Call to order the special meeting of the City Commission for Tuesday, April 28th, 2020. Let the record show we are missing one commissioner, Commissioner Steiner. We have one item on the order of business for this special meeting. Mr. Goff, are there any changes?
No, President Vicker,
Cannot,
this is,
I guess.
yep, this is simple agenda.
Okay. And then we have our agenda item is the DDA request for 2020 funding. Mr. Goff.
Thank you, President Decker and Commissioners. As you'll recall, backing up to 2009, earlier in the year, staff was working through the 2020 budget proposal and hoping to work in an annual appropriation for the Downtown Association. Before the budget cycle got very far along, the DDA found them in a need to come before the commission earlier, did that, were granted $40,000. And as we moved into the 2020 budget, as you'll recall, the original plan of allocating some money, but due to that appropriation earlier in the year, nothing was decided for the budget in concrete, although we did leave a $20,000 earmark, but it wasn't necessarily anything that was designated by the commission. So the DDA recently reached out to us and asked about perhaps getting some 2020 funding. And so with that amount being in the budget, yet not officially allocated for any purpose, we're having this meeting, and I believe they have a presentation to share with you before you ask them some questions.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you, and good afternoon. I appreciate all of you taking the time to hold this special meeting today, and thank you, Mr. Goff, for your assistance in setting this up. I don't believe I know all of you, so I will quickly introduce myself. My name is Shay Thomas. I am the newly elected president of the Downtown Dickinson Association. Here with me today is our executive director, Loanne Way, and past president of the DDA, Christy Schwartz. I thought it was important that Ms. Schwartz be here today in case you have any questions about past matters. For example, previous budget requests that I'm not as familiar with. So if you have any questions, there may be times that I will direct Ms. Schwartz to respond to those. Christy is also the president of the Downtown Dickinson Association, DID, which is the 501c3 created to receive donations for the improvement of downtown, including the town square. I know all of you are very familiar with the DDA and the work it does in this community. The DDA board was very hopeful at the beginning of this year. With our new executive director, we have seen an increase in membership, and we are able to put on events bringing success to our downtown businesses and also bringing joy to our community as a whole. Unfortunately, I'm here today because, like so many nonprofit and membership organizations, the DDA is in a very tough position. I appreciate all of your time, so I'm going to get straight to the point. Unless the DDA can secure the financial assistance of the city, it will likely have to terminate the executive director position at the end of this month. The DDA wants to continue to help facilitate the city's plan for downtown, which includes the plan for a town square, but the only way we can do that is with the help of an executive director. I can't emphasize enough that the DDA wants to work with the city to continue to create a revitalized and vibrant downtown. Prior to the meeting, Ms. Way passed out two budgets in front of you. I'm sure at first glance they probably don't make a ton of sense, but I'm hopeful that I can walk you through them and tell you what our request is and take any questions. The first one I will have you look at is the DDA budget fiscal year 2020, no infusion of funds. As you'll see, this budget shows a loss of $43,974. And that's assuming we're able to secure all of the membership fees, anticipated event participation fees, and event sponsors based on our 2019 numbers. To be honest, the chance of us securing all those fees in this climate is probably unrealistic. We have between $9,000 to $10,000 in membership fees that are outstanding. We continue to contact our membership to see how they are doing, how we can help, and then find out if they'd like to continue their membership. And if so, we share delayed payment options. Most everyone plans on staying in business wants to renew. However, they are unable to pay right now. Understandably so in these difficult times. Hosting events is the other funding mechanism for us, and our ability to host those events is also unknown at this time. Our Spring into Downtown event has been canceled. We are hopeful that we will be able to host our golf scramble in June, but things are continuously changing, and we can't assume that we will be able to, or that we will be able to raise as much money as we did last year. We have run the numbers and have determined there is only one realistic solution to ensure the health of this organization. Therefore, on behalf of the board, I am requesting city funds to cover the remainder of our payroll expenses for 2020, which is $38,140.07. This is the only way that the DDA can continue to facilitate the city's plan for downtown and ensure the health of its organization. As you will see, the second budget entitled DDA Budget Fiscal Year 2020, City Pays Wages, Taxes, and Health Reimbursement. You will see the budget shows still a negative of $6,008.93. This budget takes into consideration the city paying the remainder of those payroll, the pay wages, taxes, and health reimbursement, that $37,890.07. Again, this number is assuming that we do secure all of our membership fees, event fees, and sponsor fees. Also, this budget does not take into consideration the additional expenses the DDA may have moving forward this year related to any town square projects that we may assist with. So, although I'm requesting $37,890.07 today, that still in our budget puts us at a negative $6,083.93. However, it ensures that we have an executive director to facilitate the DDA and work with the city to reach our common goal. And we're confident that we can put in the work to step up and make the difference of that. Now that I've set forth the numbers, I think it probably is easier if I just take questions regarding specifics about the budget or any numbers we have.
Well, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Shea?
As a former director of the Chamber of Commerce, I can't imagine how difficult this time may be, especially for a nonprofit who functions heavily on events and sponsorships and collaborations with local businesses. Can you walk me through your income line items? I understand the direct public donations would be city funding. Event income, you have that blank. Can you just walk me through that line and then just down a little bit? Just curious, is the event participation fees and sponsorships, is that your only event income?
That's correct.
Okay. And then how many events did you cancel so far this year? You mentioned Spring into Downtown.
Yep, that's our only one.
Okay. And then the grant funding, where do you receive that through?
Correct. The grant funding we get from Chamber of Commerce. Yep. In order to get that, that's a reimbursement grant. So we have to spend that money in order to get it reimbursed. So the budget that sets forth the amount we're requesting for city assistance When we get down to it, what we're asking for is help to secure our executive director. After that, we know we're going to have to put in the work, call out to our members and to our city to help support our operation expenses, putting on events, and such forth. I believe most of you've been here long enough, you know that the history of the DDA, and we're finally, I think, in a really, really great spot. We have an excellent executive director. As I stated, we have increase in membership. The events we have had have just been so successful. We're getting great feedback from the businesses downtown and across the community. And so I think we're gonna be able to come together. But in order to put the caliber of events and the stuff we do for downtown, we have to do that with an executive director.
Any other questions? Justin, do you have any other questions?
I just have one more.
Go ahead.
You mentioned that you still have 10,000 outstanding balances for membership. So is this what you've invoiced then? Your 12,100?
Correct.
Okay, so that's not received at this point in time.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
I believe we also have about additional $4,000 that we still need to send out. Yeah, that's correct.
Membership total right now, how many members do you have?
84.
The grant line is money, is that CVB grant?
Yes.
My question is what if you only collect 10,000 like you did last year? Where are you gonna come up with 12,000 if we give you another 40?
That's a great question, and a question as a membership-driven organization that we have that's going to be ongoing.
'Cause I'm thinking that 10,000 is a more likely figure than 16,000.
So the number, there is a discrepancy. The 10,000 so 2019 membership dues, there was kind of a mess, and not all of them were sent out, and so a lot of our members got a year free. So now we switched to make it more clear and easier. We have a bookkeeper. We're going on an annual renewal, and so that's why all of them have been sent out. And that the 16,000 is derived from 84 members times 200. Promising is the fact that the membership dues we have received so far have been more than 200, because we give the option now of different tiers of members, and we've had quite a few that are more than 200. So although this is a difficult time right now for our businesses, I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to make that up by other businesses doing increased memberships and actually having all of them submit their dues this year.
What you're asking, 50% of your budget you want us to subsidize basically with grants and direct money.
For right now, I believe that that's not uncommon for downtown associations, because once we can truly get started, we can start to increase our own funding and no longer need to rely on city funds. But to get there, we need some help. So for example, Williston, in the beginning, they were getting $100,000. Grand Forks, $75,000. I'm not sure if they're still getting those, but the same with Rapid City and I can't remember, there's another one. When they started, they got city help, but then, their membership increased. They were able to get more funding from implementing programs downtown, and they were able to support themselves. And that's what our ultimate goal is.
Mr. Gall, when did we give them the 40? So it's just about a year?
Yep, and if you do have more questions about the prior request and kind of those funds, I would ask that Christy Schwartz come and you hear from her, because she does have more knowledge about that.
My biggest concern is we give you 40, and that still doesn't balance your budget. So what's going to stop you in September from saying, God, we're 15,000 short. Now what are we going to do? Or we're 12,000 short, or we're 8,000 short. I mean, this just seems like it's a Band-Aid that isn't going to stay on very long if you don't have a plan. And I'm guessing there's going to be more events canceled this year.
And
Possibly. I mean, I could be wrong, but my guess with what's going on, that's very possible. So how do we see the light at the end of the tunnel? That's my biggest concern. I mean, 40 helps you for right this minute, but that doesn't help you for the rest of the year very much.
yeah, and so, I mean, we went back and forth on this because, you know, the number to cover payroll, all payroll, is at the bottom there, $57,218. I didn't want to come here today and ask for that full amount at this time, knowing the current situation with everyone. And I wanted to show you that with some help, we will also put in the extra work we need to make it happen. My other request today is that we set up some type of committee or subcommittee, and so we don't run into the same situation as last year with the funding and the confusion about the budget. And this committee can be made up of the downtown members, or from our boards, city commissioners, city staff, executive director, and we can really sit down and figure out what we need to do to get on the budget and what we realistically need moving forward in the future.
Have you applied, on the governor's call today, they were talking about nonprofits are eligible for, I think in the CARE Act.
Okay,
Are
so
you a nonprofit that's not eligible, or?
So we have applied for pretty much every grant and loan we could. And good news is today we did receive $1,000 from, I believe it's the Economic Injury Disaster Loan from the SBA. So that's $1,000, and it's forgivable, and they give it for $1,000 per staff member. So we do have that. The other ones we were not eligible for, and it seems to be some type of crack or missing item in a lot of these programs, which I know our state legislators and stuff are looking at. But as of right now, that's where we're at.
I know that on the call that I was on, they brought up that nonprofits apply.
Okay.
I just didn't know. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And we're a C6 because we're a membership organization. The DDA, DID, that's a 501c3 nonprofit.
And has the DID I know you're not part of that, but do you know, have they applied?
I do not know. Because the payroll comes from the DDA. And in the future, that's something that, you know, these boards may need to sit down and consider, is whether we switch, you know, the funding to the DDA, DID, because, I mean, these organizations are separate, but, you know, they're working together for the same goal, and for the town square. And so, you know, that's definitely stuff that's been brought to our attention, and Christy and I are definitely going to look at in the future.
Carlton, do we have a history of what we've given each organization, DDA, DID, year to year, since their inception?
No, I don't have that with me at this time.
I bet
have that,
Christie
Christie?
has, yeah, she knows
In 2017, that it was towards the end of the year, I believe it was in September, I don't have the exact date, but that is the first time that we came before you, and you gave us $60,000 at that point for the DDA director to be hired. and 40,000 specifically earmarked to move forward with the town square to get it to a point of marketable drawings. And that was set aside for that. And that was used for the public meetings that we had and also for the JLG renderings that came forth. On May 7th of 2019 was the second time that we came before you, and that's when you voted to give us the $40,000.
So we gave you nothing in 2018.
Correct.
2019, 40 grand. And even though there possibly was the intention by the commission to have some of that used for the CIP, the majority of that was used or all of it was used for the DDA.
It was used for staffing expenses, and that even in the commission meeting, that was the understanding that we needed it for our expenses, which were primarily staffing. At that meeting, also then after the vote was made for the 40,000, Mayor, you made the comment that you needed to have the conversation at the budget sessions to put the DDA on an agreement and budget.
And I think we still do. It needs to become a part of the budget, but we have to have, right now, we have to figure out what we're gonna do as a whole, a stopgap, I'll just say, until we have. That would be my suggestion right now. Because the reality is, there could be one new member sitting here, there could be 3 new members sitting here. It's a total different game plan. I guess my recommendation right now is that we figure out what we do to tide them possibly over until the commission is sworn. Which, I know this is just a little bit off topic, but we're not gonna know June 9th who the new commission is. Because it's mailing, and it could be a whole week before they announce. So this commission here, as it sits, will probably sit through June. The new commission will have to be sworn in July. So I guess I'm asking for a history, to your, statistics on what the other cities have
Sure.
provided. Williston, Via Transport, Rapid City. Are those amounts after they've completed their town squares, or was it before? I think I just heard they're gonna maybe put their.
Yeah, they started paying for their downtown, or giving money to the downtown association there when they got their main street, or renovation of the street, so that works.
Yep. And if I may, Mayor, and Mr. Frederick, this kind of goes back to your concerns. I share those concerns as well. And what I didn't mention is why I think, at some point in time, I agree with you that if you aren't in a position to give us the amount we're requesting for the remainder of payroll for this year, I would propose that we figure out, and we can easily do it here right now, an amount to carry us over until the new commission sits. And then at that time, set up a committee where we can really figure this out. And part of that will be going through these budgets. And I know that I'm going to be working with my board and executive director to figure out, okay, what if the city can do this for us, but for some reason more events are canceled, memberships aren't, dues aren't coming in, what can we do? Where can we cut? What events do we prioritize? What are other streams of funding that we can get? Like, we want to make this work, and we're gonna do what we need to continue this relationship.
What, on a monthly, just, I think you can figure this out, but
Yep.
on a monthly basis, what is your total expense for Luann?
So rounding up 4,500. The exact amount is,
That's everything then.
that's payroll, taxes, and health insurance reimbursement. The, oh, here we go. The wages, she's paid twice a month, $1,791.67. So her total wages for a month are $3,583.34. And then once a month, she's reimbursed for health insurance, which is $881. So the total is $4,464.34.
Mr. Mayor? May I ask
Sure.
one question?
Yep.
Shay, when you do the payroll expenses, you have for the 43,000, that's just for Luann, right?
Correct.
Can you tell me why the healthcare doubled from 19 to 20? Is that because it's a half a year, or?
It's because our prior executive director did not take health care benefits. She got paid a little bit more, and then Luann came in August. So
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Trustin?
Ms. Thomas, Ms. Shorts, I know a big part of the conversation in the past and the partnership with the DDA revolves around the fruition of the downtown square. Can you walk me through what that plan is and how that incorporates the executive director, and kind of just talk to the importance of having that person in that position as you move forward on that project? Where does that stand today?
certainly. Things have changed a lot since just recently the city has signed agreement with purchasing the space for that town square. And I understand that Joe has been working on with JLG on the drawings for that site. So we're in that position to now start our capital campaign. We are similarly impacted by the coronavirus impact to the timing. Certainly, I think that we can start our capital campaign this year. I don't believe we can do it right away just because of the environment that we're in. Our board is ready to start our capital campaign a little bit later this year to begin our fundraising process, which begins as a silent campaign to larger donors and then turns in later. It'll be probably into next year, into more of a public campaign next year. We also know too that once we do start fundraising, it is absolutely normal and okay through the IRS that we use a very small percentage of our donations for operations. And at that point in time, would hope to be able to help with the DDA's staffing budget, and also from then on be able to pay our DDA executive director half from the DID and half from the DDA, so that we have that more opportunity in the future for grants and things like that through the 501c3. Does that answer your question? Okay.
How long does it take to switch over from the 501c3 or switch to a 501c3?
We don't have to switch. We have to have both. And the
Right,
reason
but I thought you wanted to switch to be eligible for more of the grant.
Oh, well, we have to have the payroll being paid out of that prior to the pandemic.
Okay.
So, yeah,
So
essentially,
it wouldn't matter then, right now.
it wouldn't matter right
Not
now.
for these programs.
Right.
And Luann worked through the American Bank Center as far as the PPP loan and to find out that we weren't eligible for the 501c6.
Question. Tell me why we, as a city, shouldn't just bring this position in-house and put it at the CVB if we're gonna pay 50 to 60% of the expenses.
It certainly could be an option.
I'm just trying to understand. I mean, we would eliminate a lot of these expenses because we already have them. We have phones and we have insurance and,
Sure. Certainly it could be part of the conversation. That's why I think what Shay had suggested would be a great way for us to come to those types of conversations if you're able to help us get through the June timeframe. And I would suggest even starting a working committee earlier. I mean, certainly the conversation could be continued. There's some of you that are not up for reelection. Maybe you're appointed to that committee. And we have conversations about what does the agreement look like in the future with the city, as well as what is realistic for a budget for the city to be able to help. And if that is, you know, one of the solutions, we certainly could discuss that at that time.
and maybe you have, I don't have a crystal ball, but you know, you talk about some cities have given money and pretty soon they're self-sufficient. What's that time period? Is that 3 years or is that 8 years from now?
Well, for Grand Forks, they're not to that yet, but it was 3 years for them. I am not sure about Rapid City. I know in the beginning they did help with that process, but and then once their town square was programming, you know, 300 days a year into the town square, they were making more. They were self-sufficient in that regard. I don't know if there's an ending point on Williston's. They just had put at that 100,000 towards the downtown to be able to put on events and to create that vibrancy.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that between, you know, now and whenever, you know, we can get together in a work committee, you know, we can definitely try to reach out to these other cities and get more of that detailed information and timeline. So we can kind of look at that for future reference and see if that would be applicable in our situation.
Mr. President. Commissioner Frederick, I kind of have thought that in the past, how that could be beneficial, but I also see the value of having business leaders and business professionals lead this organization, because at the heart of it, you truly know what needs to happen downtown, and you guys have the passion to restore that vibrancy. And you know, I look at other organizations that we pay out sales tax to, Stark Development Corporation being one of them. They operate solely on sales tax, and a small part of their budget is membership fees. So I don't think that I mean, they're definitely not apples to apples, but there's precedent out there that shows that, you know, this can work. Sometimes it just takes time to kind of get your foot through the door. I think a committee could be very helpful. Having kind of worked in the nonprofit sector, I know the challenges that exist, and it also, you know, if the chamber was here, it'd be very difficult to look at them and say no too. But I don't think that we can start comparing nonprofit organizations and what those needs are, but I also don't want to set a precedent for any commission that when our local nonprofits need assistance, that the city's going to come and help them tread water, if you will. I think, you know, I'd like to hear what Commissioner Walla has to say, just so we can hear from everyone. But I would be comfortable at this point just to share my last thoughts for the day, with knowing the work ahead and the need we have to bring this downtown square project to fruition, and the need we have to continue to work on our downtown. We have this allocated, or not allocated, but earmarked in our budget. I would be comfortable with the 20, and when the new commission is sworn in, whoever that will be, I think that further conversation should be had with them. That's all I have.
Wall, any comments, questions?
I do have a couple, Mr. President. So I'm not that familiar with nonprofits, so typically what kind of grants do you guys apply for on a regular basis for income? in regards, since you said you're a 501c6, and how to, just kind of walk me through that a little bit.
So the 501c6 side of things is fairly limited on grants to apply for. Most of them are very specifically not to be used for things like staff and that kind of thing, which is our largest expense. Many of them are driven by projects, arts projects, and in fact, previous director helped Craig apply for the grants from the DOT for the Villard project, just in writing that grant. There have been grants that the state has had through the arts, one specifically that we applied for that we did not get. And we have previously applied for the Bush Foundation grant, which we did not get. So they tend to be very specific to projects like lighting projects or beautification projects, not specifically for, although there's sometimes a very small portion that can be used for operations. The larger opportunity, I think, would be hopefully in the future with the 501c3. But at this point, that organization has been fairly minimal, just because we've been kind of on a holding pattern waiting for the Town Square project to move forward, which happened just about a week ago.
And I do sympathize with you guys, because it is a unique situation right now, and everyone's in a difficult situation and time. And I guess I was just going to ask about the PP loan too, but you already addressed that. And I guess I had checked that, yeah, I'm comfortable giving the $20,000 that we have earmarked.
Commissioner Frederick, do you have any additional questions? I was just going to ask staff, any comments?
No.
Mayor, may I address something? Just for a clarification, before there's any type of decision made, is, I guess, Ms. Trustum, I'll ask you this question. Are you comfortable giving the $20,000 for the rest of the year? Or, I guess I'm concerned that, like Commissioner Frederick here, that's just putting a Band-Aid over a temporary situation. So I guess my clarification and proposal would be, if you are willing to give the $20,000, that would be used for payroll, but also to go forward with creating that committee and reevaluating the situation for the rest of this year, and then also forming some sort of an agreement or understanding for the next years.
Well, I know that where we have two commissioners at, and I know I just asked staff to comment, but my recommendation, and to your question, would be that you said you basically have $4,500 in expense.
Per month.
Per month.
For payroll.
Payroll,
Yep.
yes. My recommendation would be that we cover the next 3 months. That gets us through this committee and into July, when there's a new seated commission. And then that commission can take the recommendation of that committee and proceed to your suggestion is a long-term possible contract, or maybe the vision isn't the same. Maybe we go down the route with Commissioner Frederick. Maybe it's something in-house. But that's the discussion that I think if we have Commissioner Walla and Commissioner Frederick on it, because we know they're going to be here for the next 2 years. We know that. They can be part of this committee.
Mm-hmm.
And they can, and Mr. Goff, Mrs. Carlson, I would expect you to be on there because of finances, and for the vision of the city, Mr. Goff, going forward, and to show where we want this project to go. Right now, even by the time they level that old bank center, get that site ready, you guys start raising money,
I don't see us doing anything for 2 years. Not this summer or next summer,
Probably, yeah.
right? So you're talking into 2022, the summer of 2022, if you're gonna start building.
Because they're not supposed to be done till like
Right.
October of 2020 or.
Right,
the
so
bank.
I'm saying.
That'll be out of the-
2022 is the earliest we're gonna crack
Maybe.
on this. It should give the DID at least a year and a half of fundraising to see where we're at. But we have to come up with some kind of plan where the DDA, the DID, and the city of Dickinson are all on the same page. And if that's to Commissioner Trustum's point, that we have a contract, much like we do with Start Development or Sunrise Youth Bureau or the CVB, we have contracts with groups.
That wasn't my suggestion. I just said that.
Right.
We do that with.
We do it, yes, we do. But I think this committee needs to come up with recommendations for the newly seated commission in July to go forward into the budget season, because we're gonna be finalizing budget in July and August. Unless we get to push it back, right? We haven't had any word to push it back?
We have not had any word yet. So the preliminary is due August 7th on the
Right.
revenue.
Right. That would give us at least 3 weeks to meet.
May I ask one other question,
Sure.
just to clarify? Is, the payroll, is that 24 pay periods or 26 pay periods? 24, twice a month? Because when I just figured it, you said 45, and I just quickly figured it, it's like 47.68.
40 her actual pay is 43, and then with the unemployment taxes and her benefits, the $881 a month.
Okay,
So specifically 57, it's on the bottom of the.
right, and I just divided that by 24
Yep.
plus
Correct.
2,
Okay,
so I got
Yes.
per month, so we're looking at
yeah,
$4,768.16 per month to
correct.
cover payroll.
Okay.
So that's why I just wanted to make sure that we knew
That's why
what the payroll was.
No, I'm out.
And, just, Mr. President, just so the public's aware, this funding comes out of the hospitality tax, which is used for tourism, or the purchase, equipping, improving, construction, maintenance, repair, and acquisition of buildings or property consistent with visitor attraction and promotion. Out of that fund, we give $8,000 to the DSU TR Symposium, which is a weekend event. We give the Rough Rider Commission $10,000 for fireworks. We give First on First events. This is a grant as well, $22,500. And the CVB event grant is $50,000, which they distribute on behalf of the city of Dickinson. So I think, for the work that we're going to be asking you to do, we need to have faith in you guys, and I think you've, proven that you're willing to put the pedal to the metal and work very hard to make yourselves self-sufficient. So I do think you guys have a lot of work ahead of you, and I don't know that every year, if this is, we're continuing to see the challenges in your budget, then I think that is going to be a very tough decision for future commissioners. But at this point in time, just because of the infancy of the DDA group and kind of the tasks that we've placed on you guys, I'm comfortable with it. I can stand by it, and I truly hope you guys can be successful, because I think you're doing great things for downtown, and I think we've seen such a spike in the vibrancy and the events, and hopefully it will continue to grow.
I do have one
Appreciate it.
question. Have you put a number to what your expenses will change once you start fundraising? You think that's gonna be covered in this budget?
No. But the reason I didn't do that is because
So,
this was only supposed to be about the DDA and the staff, and certainly I can get that for you. I don't have it with me.
because Does that 40 go to 60 then?
Certainly initially, there will be some dollars, but again, fundraising expenses can be taken out of fundraising, out of the dollars that we do fundraise for. The initial phase of the fundraising is private. And although there could be a few dollars in there for some, maybe having a drink at the Brick House with some
Yeah.
donor or something, I don't foresee that to be a real large amount in the beginning. And once we start getting donations in, I feel it's appropriate that we can use a small amount of those donations to move forward.
Is your intention to do it in-house or hire someone?
It's our intentions to work with the Community Foundation, mostly for facilitation of the process, because as we start getting multiple donors and keeping things straight for the IRS as far as reporting goes, I think it's important that we have somebody so that's going to be their role. We'll do the fundraising. They're going to just facilitate the bookkeeping part of it.
That's a service. Isn't that a service
The
we can
data-
offer?
The database, I guess.
I mean, don't we do that already?
A pastor?
Oh, I thought we handle all the donations on the community center and stuff and build it. Is that not true?
What I can tell you, Commissioner Frederick, is that when I came in, Parks and Rec was taking care of that, and then we took it over in 17, and now we do the billing and everything and collections. Now the city does. But before, when it first started, the Park and Rec was actually had a committee that actually did all the pledge and gathering, and then once it started with the billing, it became cumbersome for them, so then we took it over.
That's why we need to have this committee. Those questions need to be asked, that plan needs to be put in place with a recommendation going forward to the new commission in
Sure.
July, going forward. So, and you guys can start meeting as soon as you can, facilitate everybody. I would say you should be able to have at least a meeting sometime in May.
Well, and President Decker and Commission, this is really lays out pretty well. Commissioner Treston went through the subsidies. Well, it's time to look at that again, and I think looking at those fairly and in comparison is good within some of these discussions. And Commissioner Walla and Commissioner Frederick will be on that committee this year. So we can kind of start the discussions internally, is like, how are we doing our subsidies? What are we recommending? Because the agreement for 2021 would be listed as a subsidy. So having that discussion sets up right. I would agree with some of your comments here. It's probably not a staff recommendation to give more money than you already have budgeted, but you have up to $20,000 and you can allocate that however you want.
Like I said, my personal recommendation, we go through the next 3 months. And if the new commission wants to give them the remaining, or grant them more.
It'd be about $6 grand left is all.
Right. It's 13,500, there'd be 6,500 left of the 20,000 that we have earmarked right now. And the new commission could,
Do you want their first meeting to address this? I mean, if we paid them out through the 20,000, that would give them at least till August. That's a full month under their belt to have some preparation, to have some of these discussions and be caught up. I think gives a little bit of leeway so that they
well,
can be
give
up
them
to speed.
give them an additional month, they'll have 18,000, right?
If you do 4 months at the 4768, that would be the $19,072.68 for 4 months.
I guess then we might,
I'm comfortable. I mean, I'm comfortable with that. So might as well just do whatever that number she is.
Mr. President, one last question, Mr. Gah. We were going to schedule a meeting or a open forum the downtown plans, downtown square plans, is that completely on hold at this point? Is there been conversation about doing that another way? What's the status of that?
Of course, that fell right, we were gonna do it March 24th, and that fell right in about the time, about a week before that's when all the mandates for organizations, no meetings, and of course, the first thing we had to do is figure out how to keep business running, and we've done that. We've started having discussions about what's our reopening plan, what are some of the things that we've set behind us. So sometime in the month of May, we will be able to do that, because it's really something you want people to walk in and look at, and say, we like this, we don't like this. So I think we will be prepared to do that. In the month of May, we're going to start bringing back some additional meetings and some of our staff process, like court will be held, but it's being done a little bit differently. So it's on the list of things to get off our plate as soon as we can, because that's really the final step. The site's chosen. Then once the design is, then they have information to share, like this is really what it's going to look like. I mean, that's really important. Before the DID can do fundraising, they need to know what it's going to look like in that spot. So I think that's time has been a little bit on our side. We weren't really necessarily pushed, because the earliest that site's going to be vacant is late 2021, so we wouldn't start yet. So like the mayor said, we do have 2 years.
Any other comments, staff, commissioner?
President Decker, I would just say I support the $20,000. I think that makes sense to give them all of it. It sends a strong message that the city commission's on board, but wants to know other folks are on board as well, and sets forth a plan for the future. So it gives them an opportunity to go to their membership and say, we're going to maybe need a little extra help to get through the year. And that may come from the commission, but like you said, kind of sets up the timeline to do a little work and be prepared with a little bit better recommendation next time.
Okay. Any further questions, comments?
I have one if I can. I just wanted to mention that I certainly appreciate your consideration today. I would just want to make sure that we certainly don't want to waste the city's money, and that's not our intentions. I would want to make sure that as part of your decision today, that you make sure that we have those committee meetings so that we have those conversations, because we can't have a capital campaign without an executive director. It's just, we can't facilitate it.
The meetings will happen,
Okay. Thank you.
one way or another. They will happen. I guess if there are no more comments or questions, we're looking at, the reason we're here is consideration to approve funding, and right now we have 20,000 earmarked, and it seems like we have two commissioners that are comfortable and staff that's comfortable with the 20,000. I've made my recommendations, and I guess all I'm waiting for is a motion.
Mr. President, I move we approve the $20,000 earmarked funds for the Downtown Association for 2020 out of the hospitality fund, or hospitality tax fund.
We have a motion to approve the 20,000 that was earmarked from the hospitality fund for the DDA.
Second.
With a second. That motion is made by Commissioner Trustum. The second is made by Commissioner Walla. Any further discussion, comments, questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. There is nothing else on the agenda, so I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We are adjourned.